Could I ask about the senior minister appointment that you have made? I think the portfolio of senior minister has been with us since '85 when Raja was the first senior minister, but through the years, the senior ministers have never helmed a ministry at the same time. Could you perhaps talk us through your thinking around that, and what does it say about the bench strength in terms of important portfolio like MHA?
Sure. Shan's role as senior minister reflects his role in the team. Basically, as I said just now, he and SM Lee are the two most experienced members of the team. I continue to value their counsel, but importantly, I feel that they have a role to play increasingly to guide and mentor the newer and younger office holders. And that's valuable to me, I think valuable to everyone in the team, especially as we undertake this leadership transition. So the appointment as senior minister reflects that. It's an additional responsibility on top of his current roles as coordinating minister and as Minister for Home Affairs.
Pauline?
Hi, PM Pauline from MediaCorp Chinese News here. You mentioned in your opening remarks that you guys are continuing your leadership transition with younger and newer members of the team ready to take on larger responsibilities. Is that the reason why we are not seeing a second DPM? Then you also mentioned that there are some changes to be made due to recent resignations. 2 days ago, we heard about one resignation, so I'm not sure about the timing of this cabinet reshuffle. Why are we doing this reshuffle now? And if I may ask also about his resignation, because there are some questions as to why you accept his resignation online and many places. And I have one more question, sorry, PM, is on your appointment to promote Ms. Jasmine Lau to be in charge of the Manpower Ministry. What's your rationale behind it? And also to Ms. Lau, 可能可以请你跟我们分享一下，人力部是一个很重要的部门。刚才你有提到，劳动力市场充满不确定性，接下来你会跟工会、跟雇主、跟员工，可是你有没有一些实际的计划？你的优先考量事项又会是哪些呢？谢谢。Thank you.
Thank you. Multiple questions. Let me try to answer them. First, on the DPM, my assessment is that the current leadership structure is appropriate. We have one DPM, but we have 3 coordinating ministers. The coordinating ministers were appointed only last year after the elections. And collectively, that provides a very strong senior leadership team for the entire cabinet. But the situation is always evolving. Leadership renewal continues, and over time, the ministers in their respective roles will continue to develop and grow, and some of them may well take on larger responsibilities. So the structure will continue to be reviewed, and in due course, if and when I see appropriate, I will make changes. But for now, the structure, in my mind, is appropriate. On the timing of the cabinet appointments, we typically will review appointments every year. It's not unusual because there will be promotions, there will be changes, there will be backbenchers whom we see fit to bring into the front bench. So these things are done regularly. I started this process, in fact, earlier in the year. But as with all things, you have a plan, but you also have to take into account unexpected changes. Unexpected changes can arise from a whole range of different circumstances. In this year, we had 2 resignations, one out of family and one second more recently because of conduct. But there could be other things that have happened in the past. Health issues have occurred before. So despite your best plans, you have to account for these unexpected changes, and that's what I have done. And based on the earlier plans I had, and also taking into account the resignations, I made the appointments that I did. The fact that these unexpected changes do happen means also we have to continue building a strong pipeline. It's not just the ministers. You need younger office holders. you need good backbenchers, you need a good bench of leaders, and then you can start looking at assessing every individual, assess their performance, consider how well they do, and people develop at different at different pace. Some faster, some are ready for larger appointments earlier, some will take a little bit more time. Everyone will develop according to their own pace. And my job is to assess, to entrust them with responsibilities when they are ready, and ultimately to put people in positions where they can best contribute to Singapore. And that's what I have done in this latest round of changes, including the appointments for Jasmine. So perhaps I turn to her and ask her to say a bit more about Manpower.
I think, first of all, it has helped that over the past year, my portfolios have shown me a little bit more about the technology that we are talking about AI, but also from the education side, the concerns and the anxieties of younger Singaporeans about to enter the workforce. So I think that gives me quite a good overall understanding of what needs to be done going forward. From what I know of MOM work, watching colleagues in action, as well as from my prior experience, a lot of MOM work does require extensive stakeholder engagement and management. And that's a skill that we've built up over the years, whether in the public service or in our initial year as a politician. So I think those skills remain relevant regardless of which portfolios we are put into. And in the case of Manpower, it's a combination of those skills as well as the knowledge around the technology and the workforce anxieties.
Maybe Nazri first?
PM, I have a few questions on Professor Faisal. Following your dialogue with Malay Muslim leaders yesterday, PM, there has been a significant outpouring of support and sympathy from the Malay Muslim community towards Professor Faisal following his resignation. Many have expressed a sense of loss. Some feel the decision was unduly harsh. And there have been even calls for his resignation to be reconsidered. These reactions may be partly due to limited information available about the case, particularly the nature of the online exchanges and the harassment allegations. I have a few questions. First, can you provide greater clarity on the nature of online exchanges that led to this decision? Second, was Professor Faisal held to a higher standard of conduct because of his position as Minister in charge of Muslim Affairs? Third, how do you respond to the community's reaction so far? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It was asked earlier too, so it's an opportunity now for me to answer both questions about Prof. Faisal's resignation. It has come as a shock to all of us. And I met the group of Malay Muslim leaders yesterday. I know many are still coming to terms with what has happened. I understand the sentiments fully. When I first heard about the matter, I felt the same way. As PMO had shared in our statement, we first realized this issue when this lady emailed to us complaining about Faisal's interactions with her. It was a very detailed email containing all the details, screenshots, contents of the interaction. When I first saw it, my initial reaction was disbelief and shock. I thought that the contents were fabricated. But as it turns out, unfortunately, they were genuine and the interactions did take place. Some have asked if the consequences were overly harsh. Let me put it this way. First, Faisal himself, reflecting on the matter, realized that it was not tenable for him to continue as an office holder and as an MP. His explanation is that he was trying his best to manage what he felt was an awkward situation, and he did not want to abruptly cut off the interactions with the lady. But he made a very serious mistake, and he accepts that he made a very serious mistake in engaging her, even when the nature of the interactions crossed the line. And he also accepts that his responses, his interactions with her, objectively speaking, were questionable and inappropriate. And that's why he asked to step down. And he asked and requested for privacy for himself and for his family. And we have respected that request as much as possible. Second, I have tried my very best looking at the matter to see if there is a way for him to continue in office even after all that has happened. But remember, this is no longer a private matter between two private individuals and two consenting adults. A complaint has been made against him. It has entered the public arena. And that's why we have to undertake this objectively, undergo a process where we listen to both parties, and we certainly took pains to listen to Faisal's explanations as well. But after doing all that, we also have to look at the evidence and the facts. And when you look at the evidence, you look at the facts, it is clear that his conduct had fallen short of the standards that were expected of him. I shared this also with a few key colleagues in my team. So they reviewed the evidence independently, and they agreed with the same conclusion. And that's why I agreed with his decision to resign. It's the right course of action to take. Thirdly, and to the question that was posed, if this matter had happened to any other MP in the PAP, we would have done the same thing. The same process, the same standards would apply, and the same consequences would have followed. Yes, Faisal is the minister in charge of Muslim affairs. He has responsibilities as minister. There are expectations of him from the community, but our standards will apply to every PAP MP in the same way. I know it's very difficult and painful to lose someone like Faisal. I fully understand that, and I fully understand also the outpouring of support and sympathy for him from Singaporeans and especially from the community. He has done good work wherever he went as MP and as office holder. And nothing that has happened, this incident, does not in any way diminish the significant contributions he has made to Singapore over the past 20 years. Under these circumstances, I fully recognize that there may be a temptation for us to see if we can make an exception for him. But I think doing so will only cause more damage and harm to Singapore. In the end, we look at the evidence, we have to do the right thing, and we have to continue to uphold the trust that Singaporeans have in our political system and in our public institutions. It's very sad, it's very unfortunate, but we have to move forward from here.
Fabian.
Thanks. Hi, Fabian from CNA Digital here. PM Labour Chief Ng Chee Meng is back in Cabinet. So last year he had said that he asked not to have a position in government, right? And you agreed. So what has changed since then? Did it take some persuasion to get him back in your team? And also from the two recent resignations, are there any concerns that high expectations placed on our politicians may actually turn people away from joining politics, especially when you've on many occasions called for more people to step up to serve? Thank you.
First on Secretary General Ng Chee Meng, indeed he had asked last year to focus more time in NTUC and Jalan Kayu. A year has passed since then, and as I mentioned, he has settled in Jalan Kayu. He has spent a lot of time working hard on the ground there. And now as we look at the situation, we know that jobs and workplace transformation has become a much higher priority for the government. Jasmine talked about that just now. We have had many debates in Parliament about this, many questions too in Parliament about this. And Chee Meng himself had put forward a motion around AI and jobs. So we felt that I felt, given the concerns about the economic and workforce challenges we face, it was timely for him to return to the government, to return to cabinet and contribute, not just as Secretary General of NTUC, but as a minister in my team. I think he will be able to make a more impactful contribution to tackle a national challenge which we face. So I approached him and he agreed to do so. On the challenges of office of people joining politics, this has always been with us. The code of conduct is not new. The standards are not new. We have upheld these standards consistently and we will continue to do so. Does it make it more challenging to attract people? Perhaps it does, and each time an incident happens, I have no doubt people wonder in their minds, do I want to be subject to these sorts of public scrutiny? I understand that, but we have to maintain the high standards. It is necessary in order, as I mentioned just now, it is important for us to do so in order to uphold trust in our system. And I hope even as we do so, there will be Singaporeans who understand why it is important to step forward to serve and to have good people leading Singapore and taking Singapore forward. And that's what I've tried very hard to do in the last round, in the last election. I'm glad I've been able to attract quite a number of promising people to join, and they have done well as MPs, and that's why this round, 2 of them are coming forward from the backbench to be ministers of state. And likewise, over the next few years, I hope I can attract more people so that we can continue to renew, refresh, and strengthen the team, and I can do my part to put together the best team for Singapore.
So you're saying that recent events have not really impacted your plans in developing the country's next generation leadership, like there's depth in the backbench?
That was the question just now that was mentioned. Obviously, ideally, I would have preferred for the resignations not to have happened, both of them, ideally. Obviously, that would have been so much better. I value the contributions of both Poh Kun and Faisal tremendously. They are both very important members of the team. But these things are unexpected, and when they happen, you have to move forward. You have to look at alternative plans, which is what I have made. And because we have a good bench now, we are able to make the adjustments, which is why I have to continually bring in people, attract people, and make sure that we have a good pipeline of leaders for Singapore.
Thank you, PM.
Maybe Yuan Si first. Yuan Si, over the ST.
Hi, I'm Yuan Si from ST. PM, I would like to ask you, you have a very heavy workload, but you still continue to helm the finance portfolio. So can you tell us why you decided to continue with that? And then my second question is for any of the other newer office holders. We've been talking about these high standards and also like maybe the time commitments that people have to make to be ministers. So maybe for any of the newer office holders, like can we hear, whether you're prepared for these to be held to such high standards, and also maybe the time commitments that you will need that might take a toll on your family?
On the finance minister portfolio, I'm always looking to find someone who will be ready to be finance minister. It's a work in progress. Second question, would anybody?
Maybe I will share. As a parent of young children, the commitments of this job are really challenging. But I would also put it a different way. There are many jobs out there that put the same pressures on workers and on parents or caregivers. It's the same 24 hours, whether you do it as a politician or a nurse or a doctor out there. And so I think we split the 24 hours the same way as many other people have to do so, and then we manage it as best as we can. I think in terms of standards that are expected of us, we know before we join what the standards are. And so if we are in it already, the standards have not changed from what we thought the standards were, and they have to be respected regardless of how tough the job may be.
If I may add, I have 3 young children. My eldest is in primary 6 this year, so PSL is coming pretty soon. The youngest is a kindergarten kid. So it's always a reminder for myself to make sure I spend enough time for them. Like what Jasmine said, we only have 24 hours a day is how we apportion the time. And I would be the first to confess there isn't enough time. And therefore, I think family support is also important. And perhaps I can use the opportunity to thank my wife for being a very big pillar of support in this regard. In terms of the high standards, indeed, the high standards, like what Jasmine said, I fully agree. We know the standards before coming in. And in fact, I think it's the high standards that has kept the system strong through the years. And I think it's the high standards that I'm proud of and that I will live by them. And I hope anyone who joins the party, who decides to come on board, will likewise embrace the high standards.
And after that, Martino after that.
Hi, Tessa from the Business Times here. This is piggybacking some of the questions earlier. So I understand now Minister Shanmugam will now be Senior Minister. Also, other than MOF, MHA is the only one with 2 second ministers now. So is the plan for Minister Shanmugam to eventually give up his MHA portfolio sometime during this term of government? Thank you.
You can look at all the appointments. MHA, I don't think is the only one with 2 second ministers because MOF also has 2 second ministers. And you may then look at the tea leaves and speculate whether some of them are possibly in the pipeline to take over. But indeed, I mean, it's the reality is these are all roles and responsibilities where we want to expose office holders, we want to assess their suitability, and over time we hope that some of them will be in a position to take over. So I'm always doing that for different ministries, and certainly whether it's MHA, MOF or others, I will work with the team, assess their suitability, assess their readiness, and in due course, if they are ready, some of them may well take over to lead the ministry. Leadership ultimately is about ability, performance, and readiness. And my job is to assess every individual and make sure that they are able to function at their best, and together, collectively, they can contribute and give the greatest contribution to Singapore.
Martino.
Hi, I'm Martino from Mothership. So PM, we noticed that a majority of the political office holders in this press conference are from the 2025 batch, and altogether there are about 9 political office holders. How do you see the core of 5G leadership taking shape? And the second question is, can you elaborate more in terms of the significance behind the MTI name change and the splitting of responsibilities between DPM Gan and Minister Tan? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I did deliberately ask the office holders from the latest batch to come for this press conference because indeed it's a way to show that the renewal is happening. And you can see from the appointments, the new ones who have come in are doing well, and they are ready to take on larger appointments. And so the renewal is happening well, and I believe it will continue to take place, and over time we will see more of the 5G emerge from this process. On MTI and the name change to METI, as I mentioned just now, it reflects the growing and central role of energy in our economic development, our industrial transformation, and also our long-term national resilience. We used to talk about the water challenge in Singapore as a national existential matter. Increasingly, energy going forward will be the national challenge for Singapore. Not energy per se, because we can have energy through fossil fuel, but clean energy is going to be a major challenge for us. how we can continue to power our needs while achieving net zero. And so we are pursuing this work with a lot of focus. The work scope is expanding greatly. For example, we have shared that we are embarking on the feasibility study for nuclear and the IAEA process next year, which is happening. So as the work expands, the portfolio in MTI is growing rapidly. Energy is no longer just peripheral or just one part. It's a very key segment now of the MTI work. And hence, the name change we feel is appropriate. It's not just a matter of name, but it reflects the central role that energy plays. And because the work of METI is now so large, we think, and I think it's appropriate for two ministers to helm it. One focusing on trade, which is already a lot of work because you have to do lots of traveling, and in today's environment, with the sorts of geopolitical changes we are experiencing, a lot of negotiations around trade, as you might expect. Kim Yong has been leading that, and he will continue to lead that. But separately, energy and industry becoming more important. So having a minister, not a second minister, but a co-minister, leading that separately within MTI, we feel it's appropriate. So it's perhaps somewhat unique, but not unusual, as in we've had it before. If you recall, there was a time when we had MOE, and we had two ministers in MOE. So likewise now, given that MTI's work has expanded, I believe it's appropriate for the two ministers to helm the respective aspects of the new METI.
Thank you. Ke Yang from Zhao Bao. I have a few questions. One is still regarding the building of the 5G team. So how would you assess the progress now? If you put it on a progress bar, is it at 25% or 50%? Or are we already looking at the lineup forming up? So that's the first question. Next one is on acting prime minister arrangements. Previously it will be if you're not available, then it will be DPM Gun. And then if DPM Gun is also not available, you have the three coordinating ministers. So now with SM Shan taking on a new role, so will he still be one of those who will be acting? So for some clarification on that. Third question is on, you mentioned about energy being a big piece of work now, and to add it to the name of MTI, to call it METI. But why was it that you didn't split it up into two ministries like what other countries would have done? That's the third question. And one more question specifically for Minister David Neo. So there was one comment that you made earlier that minister have no time for movies. So now that, there's a lot of talk about time just now, so maybe we want to hear from you. What's your take on making that comment? Thank you.
Thank you. The progress of 5G, it is progressing well. There is no fixed timetable. Of course, I would like it to progress as quickly as possible. But as we were discussing and as I explained just now, people progress at different pace. You cannot force this. Everyone learns and grows at their own pace. Some faster, some takes a bit more time. So there is really no fixed timetable. I will have to assess each one's readiness and then in due course make the necessary appointments. But as you can see from the appointments we have made this round, even within the year, it's just 1 year since the last GE, we are making progress, and I'm confident we will continue to make good progress. On acting prime minister in my absence, it's DPM and the coordinating ministers, but we will have adjustments if necessary in due course. We will share that if necessary, if there are any changes. On why not a separate energy ministry, which some countries do have, I'm not ruling it out in the future. At this juncture, the energy role, the energy work is still growing. It's not stabilized yet. And it's not clear how it will evolve in the next few years. depending on decisions we make, depending on the feasibility studies we are undertaking, there is a possibility that the work requirements may grow significantly. And as and when we think it's necessary, then we may very well make another move to restructure further. So I'm not ruling it out, but I think this move is necessary for now, given and appropriate for now, given today's circumstance.
Well, I should just not tell any more jokes. But, you know, as with all things, we all learn. And every time there's criticism, we take it positive. I take it positively as feedback, and it's just a matter of how things are experienced by different people. We look at it, and then I ask myself, how can I do better going forward? And then that, I think, is the spirit in which I just keep taking in feedback and keep improving.
This is from Business Times. Just a follow-up question to Prime Minister's response on MTI becoming METI. I think this is a great signaling of how important the energy issues will become in the future of Singapore's economy. But I also recall that Minister Tan See Leng also held the title of Minister in charge of Science and Technology. So what will happen to science and technology, which is also key economic priorities for Singapore as well?
I know it is important, and science and technology remains part of METI's remit. A-Star, R&D, these are all important parts of economic development. So, See Leng, as the METI Minister in charge of Energy and Industry, will still oversee that portfolio. Now you may ask, again, if you look around the world, some ministries do have a dedicated ministry focusing on science and technology. And they call it that, literally. And sometimes they combine it with AI, they combine it with the infotech aspect, which is now in MDDI. So there is no perfect solution here. You can restructure ministries in all sorts of different ways and put different names to the different organizational structures. But given our current focus, as I mentioned just now, the central role that energy plays, I think what's important is to reflect that appropriately in MTI's new name of METI, and then to organize the work accordingly.
Maybe we take a last few questions. We do Charlene. We take a few questions at the same time then. Charlene, then.
Hi, Ministers. This is Charlene from CNA. I have a question for Mr. Jeffrey Sao and Mr. David Neo. Earlier on, Mr. Sao mentioned he learned a great deal about political life. So wondering for both of you, what have been the biggest political lessons in the past year or so? Thank you.
Well, being a civil servant is very different from being a politician and being a minister. I've used this analogy before, but my guys don't really like it. But I think I moved from being a product developer to really more of a product manager. There's a lot of explaining to people what we are doing, why we are doing certain things, and persuading people in the best way possible, in the most efficient way possible, in the most effective way possible, what you're trying to do. And some of that persuasion is not just about the policy content, it's not just about the rationale and the logic, but there's a lot of the emotional connection that you need to make. And that's something that has surprised me, but also in some ways really delighted me, because it's something that I enjoy, meeting people, hearing from them, understanding what is it that matters to them, and then how best we can work to support them and serve them. So that's been the biggest transition, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that in the years ahead.
Well, I think for me, it's been about being able to spend enough time to listen to and hear from the very diverse and very wide range of stakeholders. In my previous roles, I tend to be more focused on a particular area, but in this ministry, it's about portioning enough a time to support our local arts and culture groups, to support our heritage practitioners, to support our community leaders, to support our religious groups, our sportsmen and sportswomen, as well as our youth. So it's very wide-ranging, but it's something that's crucially important. I think it's important to spend enough time to understand each segment, what is important to them, how are they experiencing and feeling our policies, what's working, what's not working, what are their dreams, what's their aspirations, what role can the ministry play to work together with everybody, right, to help achieve our common goals. And that in itself, I think it's the main challenge. The thing I take away from it, and the really positive part about it, is that when you spend time with all the different groups, I'm really able to experience the kind of deep commitment and the deep love that they have for whatever they are doing. Okay, whether is it arts, heritage, everybody shares that deep sense of commitment. And I think this is the commitment that drives me. I suspect it's the commitment that drives all of us to want to do better, okay, not just for our respective portfolios, but to do better for Singapore as a whole.
Good afternoon, PM. This is Lai Fang from Shiming Daily. Yeah. So my question would be, so for this round, right, we have seen 2 significant promotions for female political office holders. So while some may ask whether there's a scope for even greater female representations in the senior cabinet role over time. So how do you view the pace of progress, and what would you like to see in the years ahead? Thank you.
There is scope for greater female participation and representation in Parliament and in Cabinet. I'm always looking out for such talent, and of course, the appointments will be again on the basis of individual readiness and merit. But I believe there is scope.
Okay, maybe one last question we end with Nasrila.
Wrap up all the questions to take a few at a time. I thought you were trying to...
Okay, raise your hands again. Nasri Chikong. And Sean, is it? Sean. Okay.
Yeah, PM. In a period of slightly over a year, 14 months to be precise, there has been 3 ministers in charge of Muslim affairs. Given this relatively high turnover, some in the community may have concerns about the continuity and stability of the Malay-Muslim political leadership bench. How is the government ensuring continuity and depth in this leadership? And what is the longer-term strategy to develop and prepare the next generation of Malay-Muslim leaders in Cabinet? Thank you.
Chikong, you ask your question, and then after that, Sean, and then we can take the questions as...
Okay. PM, if I remember correctly, I think this is your 3rd cabinet lined up. With new prime ministers, it takes time to build a team. So would you say that the team is almost there, the key pieces are in place, or are you still, there are some missing pieces? I mean, how settled, or is it a continuous process?
Just following up on Nazri's question, I'm Izwan from Berita Media Corp. So, following Dr. Faisal's resignation, many have expressed concerns about the gap in leadership. And today we don't see significant changes in the role of Malay POHs in the new lineup. So my question is, how does the PAP government intend to strengthen leadership development and ensure continued strong representation of the community?
Perhaps Sean from Asia One. Just taking back to last year, in the same setting where PM actually mentioned global uncertainties as a key reason for retaining a core of more experienced POHs beside you. This year, I think, are we looking at the uncertainties being a new norm that the government is getting more used to, and so more ready to make changes as well as move people up as part of the renewal process? And if so, what is that formula that PM you are looking at in terms of your continuous leadership renewal process?
Okay. Actually, there are just 2 broad questions, one about the leadership process and another, the transition and renewal process, and the second around the leadership. So first, on the cabinet lineup, this is, I think the question was my 3rd lineup, but as I mentioned just now, every year we make adjustments. So our approach is not one of once every few years, you announce a grand scheme, a grand arrangement, and then you make changes another few years later. Our approach is one of continuous renewal, continuous adjustments. Every year, we assess, we may appoint new office holders, we may do some promotions, we may make some adjustments to portfolios in order to broaden individuals' exposure, and it's a continuous process of renewal and maintaining that balance, as was mentioned just now, because indeed, we are assuming that uncertainty is the norm. And to navigate a world of constant flux and uncertainty, you need a good balance of experienced leadership as well as fresh perspectives. And so we retain a core of experienced leaders. And even down the road, if some of them were to relinquish their portfolios, we can still tap on them in different ways. And increasingly, for example, the question was asked about Min Shan and his role as senior minister. I do see the more experienced ones, like him and SM Lee, playing the role as mentor and guide for our younger office holders. And then over time, as the more senior ministers relinquish their portfolios, younger ones can come up as and when they are ready, as I mentioned. And then we will continue that process of renewal, keeping the veterans, keeping the experienced leadership while refreshing the team. That is the Singapore way of leadership renewal. It's a continuous process, and this announcement today reflects that continuous process. On the MM leadership, we take the same approach. As I said just now, Faisal's resignation is a setback. It's a setback for me, it's a setback for the government, it's a setback for the MM community, it's a setback for Singapore. We are very sorry that he's left us, especially under these circumstances, but my assurance to the MM community is that the work continues. The aspirations and progress of the MM community is a key priority for me and my government. So the projects, the initiatives, the good work that Faisal has done during this short time, 1+ years as a Minister in charge of Muslim Affairs, will continue. Zaki, together with the rest of the MMPOHs and MPs, will continue that good work, working with the other MM leaders in the community. We will make sure that there is no pause, there is no break. We will continue the initiatives around M3+, the M3+ network, for example, that he had put in place. We will continue the good work of engaging all the different groups. So that's my commitment, that's our assurance, and we will work doubly hard to rebuild any confidence or trust that may have been impacted by this incident. As far as new MM leaders are concerned, you see them, they are there in this round in our MPs and also in the other office holders. I mentioned Zul just now as someone who has come in from the private sector only early this year, and he has already made an impact. He has done well, and he has shown good potential. And over the course of the next few years, we will continue to look at others. As and when they are ready, we may be able to give them greater responsibilities, different appointments, and perhaps even amongst the backbenchers. So as I said, the same approach that we take for leadership renewal applies to the MM leaders too. And we are always looking out to make sure that we are able to renew, refresh our leadership across the board, including for the MM community.